but just don't dive in thinking it's going to be great from the beginning, because you've got to make sacrifice. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the hours. If you're doing it just for the money, if you're doing it just because you think it'll be like create the lifestyle you want immediately, then you're definitely not doing it for the right reasons.
Welcome to Honest Ecommerce, where we are dedicated to cutting through the BS and finding actionable advice for online store owners.
I'm your host, Chase Clymer.
And I'm your host, Annette Grant.
And we believe running an online business does not have to be complicated or a guessing game.
If you are struggling to scaling your sales, Electric Eye is here to help. To apply to work with us, visit electriceye.io/connect to learn more.
And let's get on with the show. On today's episode of Honest Ecommerce, we welcome Jimmy Hickey, the founder of Findlay Hats, sharing his merchant journey. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Honest Ecommerce. This is the first time we're trying video, so this is a crowning achievement. Today, we welcome to the show Jimmy Hickey from Findlay Hats. How are you doing today?
Woo, I'm doing grand. I got my yerba mate. I'm sitting pretty and ready for a good day.
Awesome. With the power of technology, we are hundreds of thousands of miles apart. I don't know how far away you're from me, actually. I'd say 1,000 maybe from Portland.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think maybe a little past that.
Yeah. Well, all I know is way back when I was in the band, one time we had to drive from Columbus, Ohio, all the way to Seattle, Washington, no stops. And that's when I contemplated quitting music for the first time.
Yeah, fair enough. I think those long drives will either make or break you, and it almost broke you, but it sounds like you survived. So congrats.
I stuck doing music for way too long. I still have a love for it, and I'm still kind of involved if anyone knows me beyond this podcast. So with that being said, I'm so excited to have Jimmy on the show. He's built an amazing business. Another one of our founders series episodes, I guess we're doing here. So anyways, take us back before Findlay Hats. What were you doing?
So prior to Findlay, I was a full-time photographer in action, portrait, and documentary. Those are the three kind of main things I was interested in. My bread and butter were just super simple senior portraits. I just took senior portraits for families, and it kind of varies across the country, but at least out here, people were paying a lot for senior portraits. So I made a pretty comfortable living doing that. The downside was it was super seasonal. The commercial photography was cool because I got to work with different companies. But the downside there was the budget for commercial work was nothing. I went to school for commercial photography, and legitimately, out of all the commercial clients I had, the only company that ever paid what we were taught to charge for a normal, day rates or commercial shoot was Nike. So past that, every other commercial client I had had no budget. And being on the other side of the coin now, I kind of see that. And then there's just no money in documentary photography. So it was something I was passionate about. I love to create. I love to, have something in my mind and then turn it into a reality. And photography was scratching that itch, but because it was so seasonal and because it's getting more and more saturated every day, it was a very difficult and competitive marketplace to be in. So I started kind of investigating other avenues for income, at least as a side project.
So with your photography, you a Canon or Nikon man?
Canon all day.
Oh, we are best friends now.
All right. Yeah,
that's gonna make comments happen, and people are gonna not like it because I chose a side you're not supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, the Chase Jarvis says the best camera in the world is the one in your hands. So,
oh yeah, my favorite comment back when I was shooting a lot, which is funny. So that's how I got into this side of the business too. Is back when I was in the band, I was doing photography. I was shooting promotion photos for the bands. I was shooting for magazines. I was doing all sorts of stuff, but I couldn't do that on the road. You can't line up gigs in 32 cities. You know what I mean? That was impossible. So that's when I started getting more into web design and marketing and learning.
Nice.
All that kind of skills that I have today. But I still have a huge passion for photography, and I when I get to grab the camera and go have fun, it's still really fun for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially with the stress less on your back for having to do stuff when you're doing it more on your terms versus trying to make it happen for.
Yeah. How often are you doing something for your business and you're I'm just gonna go take this picture?
I mean, I do a majority of the content creation. We have one of our marketing girls also does a lot of video stuff, and we'll usually tag team video projects. I'll do most of the photo stuff, and then she'll do most of the video editing.
Well, that's awesome. You can kind of keep the costs down, having those skills kind of in-house and giving you something to do with the day to day.
Oh yeah. Well, then I mean, it's really tough signing off on photo work because it's just anytime I pass it off to another, person or anything, it's tough to get my full seal of approval when it comes to photo stuff because I got a very peculiar eye and very, I just like having full creative control over that aspect more than any other thing. But, that skill set comes in handy for content creation for, social media stuff like, our Instagram posts are just, it's really easy to get a quick quality professional shot, set up some lighting, set up, some good stuff there. So it comes in handy.
Yeah, I think that's the hardest part of growing any business is handing off the stuff that like you are doing really, really well. I'm personally having trouble letting go of our newsletter. I still have to write it every week.
Nice. Yeah. What got you to the breaking point there to have to pass it off?
That it's getting, other things are getting in the way and I don't want to miss a week. I don't want my responsibilities as, as a partner here to get in the way of me like producing that content. And it's, it's kind of like Kurt Elster said something really cool when I saw him speak a few years ago. He was like, it's kind of like head work or hand work. Like if you don't need to think about it, it's got kind of a script behind it. Like, why are you still doing it? So I try to take that stuff to heart and get the stuff off my plate. Because there's, within the agency world or just any service business, there's like that $1,000 an hour activity that only you can do as the business owner. And that's where I need to focus half my time. I don't need to be writing an email. That's like not really that important.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially in same boat on our end with email marketing. That's less of the things that I enjoy doing. It was actually one of my least favorite aspects of marketing on our end is email marketing. So like within the last month, we started working with an agency that's doing a really great job, but it's just, that was one of my most difficult kind of genres of work was like, creating emails that would get a high open rate, high click rate, or just work. And so now working with an agency with someone who just specializes in that has been a great feeling. So that's a good example of hiring for a weakness. That was a very easy one to sign off on, minus the new expense. But yeah, I agree with you fully that passing off the stuff you enjoy and like is definitely a tough one.
Absolutely. Cool. So let's take it back to the beginning. So after photography, what prompted kind of like a hat brand? Where'd you get into that?
So the original concept for our hats I actually invented when I was like 12, 13, 14, somewhere in that age range. I want to say closer to 14 probably. But so I was rafting down the mighty Toutle River. It's like this beautiful... Are you familiar with Mount St. Helens out here?
Yes.
Our volcano? Yeah. So like the Toutle River is one of the like rivers that just, I think it's glacier runoff from it. And when Mount St. Helens erupted, it's basically just like washed out this river. And there's like, when you're rafting down it, you'll see like logging trucks and like cars and just like houses and stuff. Like it's crazy, like or huge piles of rebar, like 20 feet tall, 30 feet wide. Like, it's crazy. There's just a lot of like weird debris out there because of the eruption. So it's a really cool little place to raft. And every summer we'd go out there and do some rafting. And I'm like a hat addict, right? Like I pretty much have a hat on my head from when I get out of bed to when I get to bed in the evening. That's very few times this hat's not on my head. If I'm dinner with my parents, I'll take it off for my mom. That's about it. So, rafting's no exception. And so I'm rafting and we go through the Hollywood Gorge, which is like the most like the sketchiest part of the Toutle River. And it's like people die there. It's a heavy duty spot. Like it's definitely gets your adrenaline pumping. You have to like stay left and then go immediate right. And if you mess up, it's no good. Well, we messed up and capsized the raft. And along with, falling off the raft, I lost my favorite hat, which was like this like quilted khaki Burton hat that was like had kind of like an S hat or S pattern of quilting all around it. And it was a bummer because I loved that hat. I had some good times in that hat and had to spend the rest of the day without a hat on my head, like in a hot, summer day. And I think I had a really bad haircut at the time too, like a humorously bad haircut, like the opposite of like a monk haircut, like a halo.
Mm-hmm.
We were just messing around. I don't really know. Either way, I had to deal with that all day. And so the next time I went rafting, I'm like, I'm just not going to lose my hat this time. So I took a pocket knife, cut a hole like right here in the sweatband of the hat on each side, and took my shoelace out of my shoes and made my first Findlay hat with the with the laces down and how they got the beauty of video, I can kind of show this is a much more advanced version of it, but kind of like that style. There's a bad clip, really bad clip. But yeah, so it was my first water hat. So basically the lace would keep your hat on your head. So next time you capsize the raft, you don't have to worry about the hat falling off. So I wore it, went rafting. I forget if I actually had to put it to the test, like if we fell out or not. Regardless, we didn't not lose my hat. And I called it my water hat. And every time I went out rafting or on a boat or just I pretty much wore that hat exclusively. And every time I wore it, people were like, man, that hat's so sick. Where'd you get it? I was like, I made it myself. And like, well, cool. If you make more, like I'd buy one. And fast forward 8, 9, 10 years, I decided to make more.
Oh, that's an awesome story and a brilliant concept. It did just come to you? You were just looking at your shoes, looking at your hat, be like, oh, put that together.
Honestly, the exact thought process that came to me, I have no idea what or how I decided to do that. I just remember it was just a very second nature. I need a problem solved here, and it's okay, well, I can do this. And I have a very faint memory of the actual cutting of the hat with the pocket knife, and I have no process of what actually made me I'm going to take the laces out and just do this. So
yeah, I mean it's. The best ideas are just so simple and so easy to execute. So that's proof right there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty simple concept that, has grown in the past, we're going on 6 years now, grown from just a simple idea that helped keep my hat on that head rafting that day to, we're a 12-person team. We're, heads around the planet. And, yeah, it's crazy. I just one little lace added to a hat has, made a pretty big impact on things. So, we're talking right now because of that little lace thing. So
absolutely.
Yeah. We got the patent for it. Oh yeah.
Official.
We got the patent. Oh yeah. Nice and official.
Cool. Yeah. You're probably the first patent owner that I've had on the podcast. How would you say that? One, how's that process? Sounds probably terrible. Two, how has it affected your business?
So the patent wasn't terrible. We had a really good attorney for it who basically before we got the patent process started, he was referred to by a friend and he was into photography, hobbyist. But we talked shop about photography and actually through that I was kind of able to gauge how much of if he was shifty or not. And he just was completely he knew his stuff when it came to photography. He wasn't exaggerating. He basically, I trusted him talking on a one-to-one level with photography, which I feel with amateurs or just anyone who's not really in the scene, will kind of exaggerate and just not, maybe rub me the wrong way. But he was super he was knowledgeable. He wasn't over the top. I trusted him in photography. Okay, I probably can trust him with our patent process. And honestly, we sat down, he took some notes, he made some sketches. And he told me it'll be probably $4,500 to start, and then it'll probably end up going between $7,000 and $10,000 after. And this was probably a year or two after we started, and I can expand a little bit more into that. It's actually a good reason. At some point, I wanted to touch on why we didn't get a patent immediately. Mm-hmm. But after a year or two, after we kind of proved that we had enough of a business to invest that money in it, we moved forward with it. But the process was pretty simple. He literally looked at that and asked me some questions and then left. But it was expensive because every couple months we'd get a $500 to a $1,200 invoice from them to pay, and that just kept going for. I mean, I think I still have one over here. It's constant. They keep coming in still because you have to go through multiple revisions. Generally, your patent will never get approved first try. Generally, it has to go through they'll find multiple points that are wrong with it, and then they have to fight. You have to counter those points or adjust those points, and each time you're paying more money to the team of lawyers to make those adjustments. So yeah, all said and done, it took, I want to say 2.5 to 3 years ish, at least 2 years, and it was close to $9,000 or so. With I think our final big invoice, we still have to pay for it for because we had to fight it. The patent office approved it and then put us through another hoop where we had to still fight to claim it was still valid versus 3 other styles that were had similar points that were related to ours, but not the exact same. Yeah.
So let's go back to the beginning of the company, the first couple of years. Why didn't you get the patent? It was expensive. And then why did you need to get it after a certain while?
So we didn't get it at first. It was the cost. We just couldn't afford to do it. And then a family friend, and this is actually some of the best advice we've ever got for Findlay stuff. This is before or right after Findlay launched. This is like at a Christmas Eve party. He's a family friend. He's like a real estate attorney or something. So he's, knows legalese, but he doesn't know patent law. Yeah. But he was looking at the hat. He's like, I don't think you can actually get a patent for that. Like, it's just too simple. So what you should worry about instead is building a strong community that will basically, when someone does rip that patent off, you'll own the space, and the community will basically stand up and be like, yo, that's not right. This is a Findlay hat. That's not, your thing. So with that in mind, that's why we really focused heavily on creating the Findlay Force, which is the community around our brand, which is our, we try to promote it as more than just customers. It's like a community. And so, we have a private group of people who just collect our hats, or people who are really into the scene. We try to have an open and active dialogue with our customers and community. We try to, we do all of these community building things for people that, support our hats. And as a result, we have this really strong, tight-knit group of customers who, one, obviously word of mouth is huge, but two, they, I guess word of mouth is the biggest piece of it, but two, it really, I don't know. It's been good having the Findlay Force. I guess I can just keep it simple at that end. Yeah. It's one of those things where when you see someone wearing, an Adidas shirt on the street or something like that, no one's unless it's a dope design, no one's going to be like, hell yeah, man, Adidas. But with Findlay, it's when someone sees another Findlay Force member out in the wild, it's an actual thing. People are like, hey, what's up, Findlay Force? And talk. It's a conversation starter. It's an automatic kind of friend if you're wearing Findlay. And we actually have a really cool post on our Facebook right now where it's have you ran into a Findlay Force member in the wild? And I haven't checked it today yet, but I know before I went to bed last night, it had 90 different responses of people saying that, telling stories about running into people. So, and that all stems from just the simple idea that we couldn't afford to get a patent. We didn't know if we could get a patent. So we wanted to have this community that would defend us.
Yeah. And that's just taking brand to the next level. You just invested in your brand, building a conversation and a community around the brand itself, which was pretty much free to do. It just took work, good content, good ideas, because you didn't have the capital to not trademark it, sorry, but to get the patent for it at that time.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's paid off in dividends now, that time investment at the beginning.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we still invest heavily. We have two people who, three people, including myself, who just hit our Facebook comments, Instagram comments, respond to as many people as we can. We have a very it's something that is difficult to scale, as we have literally hundreds to thousands of comments to go through, because we have all these different ads for prospecting and retargeting, all this stuff. There's pretty much an endless flow of comments to hit. As soon as you finish, get to the bottom of it, there's 50 new ones to get to. Mm-hmm. But those comments are a way to, create all these genuine good interactions with our customers. And as a result, we put a face to the brand, we put an identity to the brand, and then they have a positive experience with us, even if it's just hey, they just tag a friend, hey, look at this hat, what do you think? And then, we'll respond to something super simple hey, thanks for checking us out. Let's know if you have any questions. Or oh, you like that style? That's a great choice. We designed that bill because of X, Y, and Z. So we still to this day, regardless of having over 100,000 followers across social media, we still try to make each moment with our customers a memorable one. And that's something we did very early on, and we had 50 followers to where we're at now. And I think that'll be a piece of it we continue to value.
Support for our podcast comes from our friends at Simpler, a new way to staff 24/7 sales and customer service on your e-commerce store. It works with your existing email and chat platforms, so setup is quick and easy.
Simpler's network of on-demand, U.S.-based Simpler specialists are standing by to answer your customers' most common questions. Set it up for free today and then turn it on or off depending on your customer volume. You only pay $2.25 for every resolution. No hidden fees, contracts, or minimums.
Close more sales with Simpler by staffing your email and live chat around the clock with Simpler specialists.
Start your free 7-day trial at simpler.ai/honest. That's simpler.ai/honest. Let's talk about the beginning. You got a product, you got a website. Was your first website on Shopify?
No, it was on Squarespace, and the Squarespace was great for simple, clean layouts, but wasn't great for e-commerce. We jumped the ship about a year and a half into business, I think, to Shopify. I remember seeing the back end of Shopify and just being like, "Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's entirely designed for e-commerce, not just designed for a pretty website."
Yeah, I think so. I'm like a Shopify partner guru, not guru. I hate that word. I hate the word guru or rock star when it comes to cash. But I mean, I'm a big evangelist for Shopify or e-com. If you're doing like a B2B thing or a portfolio website, Squarespace is awesome. I just told a friend to build a Squarespace website yesterday. I hate when people are like, it's this way or the highway with like any sort of CMS or technology. It's like, no, they all exist for a certain reason.
Absolutely.
And I think Squarespace is great for the things I listed, but yeah, for e-com, Shopify is obviously awesome. So during those first 2 years, before you made the switch to Shopify, like how was that working? What was the growth like? How were your sales? Like, what were the struggles back then?
Man, the still throwback. So we started this company with no investors, with no influencers. It was about $1,400 and 80 hats is about where we started. Started in the living room with our co-founder Sarah, who's my ex now, but we were dating at the time. And it was just the two of us in the living room, and she was kind of doing a lot of the sewing stuff for like our pockets and beanies. I was doing pretty much a lot of the other stuff there. And the very first day we launched, we had like an opening party. That went super smooth. And then the website went live, and we made the website live, and like I stayed up all night. It went live at like 7 a.m. and I went to bed. And when I woke up, I didn't see any sales. I was like, oh, that's too bad. And then I went to the website and I saw like we had some emails like, hey, like the payment processor's not working. Or it's not letting us add something to the cart. Basically, there's one button on Squarespace that was like enable store, and I never clicked the enable store button. Okay. So yeah, that was the very first taste of e-commerce, at least for that product, or at least this company, where it's like the long road started with 3 to 4 hours of the website just not even working once we launched. So yeah, I've been putting out fires every day since then, some bigger, some smaller. But early on, honestly, we had pretty good traction from the beginning. It wasn't crazy, but I mean, we were selling a handful of hats a day. I want to say like between like 1 and 10 a day for the first year.
And how are you getting those first sales?
I mean, through social media, pretty heavily. We had, again, like the community was a big piece of even like early on, like for our sponsored athletes. So we had a lot of people who I knew through action sports photography or just through my friends, and they helped spread the word for sure. We got our hats on the heads of good people who were then spreading the word about it.
Is that influencer marketing before influencer marketing was a thing?
I mean, to some degree. I mean, it was like friends rocking it, and some of our friends had bigger followings than others. Some of them are like pretty like advanced amateur riders. So I mean, that was a big piece of it. And we kind of grew from city to city. There's a couple hubs, especially in the Northwest, that really got us off the ground, like Hood River, Oregon, and Port Angeles and Sequim, Washington. And Bellingham. Those were like 3 kind of our biggest hubs early on, where we just had a lot of people wearing Findlay, and they were creating a little bit of buzz around it. But I mean, it was really like we didn't have much of a budget for advertising. We really didn't like go too hard with a lot of stuff on that end. We just had a lot of content. We did contests. We did, whatever we could to grow organically at the time, and just kind of took it one day at a time. I kind of touched on it earlier, but even at that stage, we really like went hard with trying to communicate with our customers. And when it was, when we had not that many followers, it was really easy to go to every person's page and ask questions and comment stuff. And definitely spent a lot of time just directly engaging with our early customers, because that was, one of the ways that I saw it's like each one of these is a potential sale and a potential lifelong customer. And it's cool to see we still have a lot of those early customers that I remember their names from then. Nice.
And then let's fast forward to now. What's a day in the life at Findlay Hats now? What's your guys's, what's not your marketing plan? That'll take way too long to explain. But what are you guys doing today that's different from back then? Obviously, I know you guys are now getting into Facebook and Instagram a bit with paid. Let's talk about that.
Where do you want to hit on first? I can expand on that in many different directions. I guess I'll hit it from here. The biggest thing we've noticed in the last like year has just been, the social media advertising has gotten a lot more difficult. Like our return on ad spend has dropped so heavily compared to where it was even this time last year. One of the biggest things that, like, if you talk about like hockey stick growth for our brand, was back in 2017 when we were having a slow year from January through May, and we were actually like behind where we were the year before. And pretty much up to that point, every year we had doubled in sales, pretty consecutively. But for this time, for the first time, we were seeing like a down year. We were behind. So I was like, okay, like we need to change. Like, what is it? Like, what's going to be the recipe for that? And I forget exactly what inspired me to do it, but it was like, oh, clearly Facebook advertising is like, we do it lightly. We probably spent like $20 or $30 a day at the time. And it's like, okay, like we're not really seeing good results with it, but I'm seeing all this stuff that like it's, we should be using it heavier. There's brands that are spending significantly more than that. They're also way bigger than us. It's like, so I basically was like, oh, I need to learn Facebook advertising inside and out. So I took the Facebook Blueprint course, and then I took some courses on Udemy. Mm-hmm. Great resource for learning. Anyone watching this that's trying to learn, I highly recommend checking out Udemy for any related course to what you're interested in, because there's some really good stuff on there. So I took the courses on Facebook advertising and kind of got a much better understanding for how it works, and realized we had just never, ever really done a prospecting campaign to a lookalike audience with a video that just explains who we are and what we're all about. Mm-hmm. That's all it was. So I made that video. We have a lot of great content to pull from. So I made the video. It's very basic, like just action shot, feature, text below, like very just like you see on Facebook stuff. It was not an incredible piece of work, but the shots were clean and it makes the hats look cool, and it hits the good selling point, or hits some good selling points. So we ran our first prospecting campaign on Facebook for, as I can think of, video views objective, and then also a conversions one. I forget exactly, just to a lookalike audience to our, I think, 10,000 followers we had at the time on Facebook. And pretty much overnight, that changed our brand. Our return on ad spend for the first like week or two was like 18, which, anyone in e-commerce knows, like, I mean, for us, like, 2 it now is good. Yeah. 2 or 3 is solid.
I would say you should be happy about 5. Anything above that, you should be very happy.
Yeah, and I'd love 5, absolutely. You're talking
across the board, from prospecting down to retargeting. The prospecting's so expensive. If no one's ever heard of Findlay, you're showing them something. Half those people aren't going to care.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's just the cost of doing business up there.
Yep. Yeah, but at the time, prospecting campaign at like 17 or 18 ROAS, which was just insane. Like we were not spending that much. It was just bringing in an insane amount of sales. Our average order went up to like literally like 10 times more than what we were doing at the time. And it gave us the opportunity to move into this warehouse space. We expanded our staff. We had 4 at the time to, I think, like 7 pretty quickly after that. And it's slowly grown since then. So basically strategic social media advertising was a huge, boost in our brand's existence. Our daily ad spend went up significantly, obviously from 30 a day. We were probably at the time spending maybe 400 to 600 a day ish, through that summer at least. And then obviously like times change, same, like content gets old, audiences go stale, 1,000 factors go in, and then, every day since then it's got worse. So it's really been, and then pretty much last September or so, we basically like realized that like we needed to start diversifying. We can't just rely heavily on social media advertising. So we've been kind of working on other avenues. Right now, one of the biggest things that we've added into our marketing chain is just, I kind of mentioned it earlier, but just much stronger email marketing.
Yep.
We've had very basic, like, 60 days to get this email, 90 days, 180 days, and then like a very basic welcome flow. Yep. And like abandoned cart, and that's pretty much it. And we're now working with an agency that is just, responsible for this month. They've done 20% of our sales have been entirely from email marketing, which
I see that across the board.
Like 3%, it went from 3% to 20% all because of this single agency. So it's been little things like that. We've kind of been backed into a corner and have to figure out what the appropriate route is to go from there.
I think that, I don't know who said it, that email was dead or like email marketing's dead. Like, they're a liar and an asshole for the most part. Like, I have so many people who are like, oh, I heard email like wasn't it. Like, I need to do Facebook and Instagram advertising. I'm like, well, that costs money and you already have this email. Why not just do that? So I don't know. That's just me going off on tangent. So I want to go back to, you said something about how the ads would get like cold on Facebook. I don't want anyone to take this to heart that they need to do it for their business, but like, how often are you guys not recycling, but producing new content for those campaigns?
Pretty much weekly.
Yep.
And I mean, it varies fairly heavily depending on like retargeting is fairly consistent with like dynamic ads. And then we try to sprinkle in, like, it's not all like buy, it's value, buy, funny, value, buy. I don't know, it varies. And but for prospecting, we have a pretty good arsenal. And again, we work with another agency for our social media advertising now. It just got to the point where I just didn't have the time to like day trade looking at our campaigns. And I'm in our ad manager daily, but I'm not A/B testing and split testing, doing all this different stuff each day. And our agency luckily is pretty awesome with testing all the different campaigns and testing all the different creatives and offers and text and all, or copy and all that. But I because I have a good enough background and understanding of it, I can kind of see, like, I understand what they're doing, why they're doing it. We have weekly meetings and all that. But yeah, we're changing our content up pretty often. Some of the videos have been around, like the very original video that gave us that big hockey stick growth. We ran that video up until the last couple months with a very low daily spend. But it was just like, it was such a, like, it had, I think, I forget, it had like, I want to say 12 million views. I think it's probably past that, but it was just really tough for me to turn that one campaign off, regardless of it, not really performing well. It was just tough to see that original one just go down. So yeah, I mean, we're recycling it and testing. We've tried different stuff until, it stops, we stop seeing a good return on it, and we'll find something that works and we'll see if we can make it work better. So yeah, I mean, having fresh, changing content, I think, is definitely important. You don't want, to get fatigued too quickly.
Yeah, I see that is usually the number one problem with people when they're at the point where paid advertising makes sense for the brand, is they don't have the systems in place within their business to produce content fast enough. You know what I mean? If you're, one photo shoot every quarter is definitely not enough.
No, yeah, absolutely.
A week-long photo shoot, then maybe. And then just video outperforms photography. I've, especially when I was younger doing this before the agency, like, we'd have some clients that would be like, here's a folder with like 80 things, make this work for the next 6 months, just random videos or pictures. It's like, well, that kind of can work. But like, once you start split testing stuff, that is gone so fast.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's where the photo and, video in-house, comes into play. Like, we can, create content in a day, like, it's pretty simple on our end to, have an idea, execute it, share it like that day. Like 90% of our Instagram posts were taken within the last like hour before you see it there. Like, definitely, at least for like the product stuff and stuff like that. So no, definitely content is king, and you want to have a nice diverse mix of good stuff. It always trips me out seeing brands or even photographers just sharing like the same like style photos back to back to back. It's like, yeah, like I saw this exact model wearing that exact thing just in a slightly different pose yesterday, like.
No, those are too similar. Like, I wouldn't even notice it was a slightly different pose. Those are the same things to me, even though technically it's different. It's a different ad name. You definitely want the creative to be like different enough that like a toddler could tell the difference.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, at the same time, if you find a formula that works, run with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's a few photos that we'll do that, like someone holding two hats, one on one side with the laces up, one with the laces down on the other side, side by side. And, those style shots just consistently work really well for like a 2-week window. So we'll like run those heavily until they stop working. And then we'll, switch up the hats, switch up the environment. So, there's little formulas within that where it's like, it's recycled concept, but different execution.
Yeah, don't reinvent the wheel. If you find something that works, remember it and keep doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point.
All right, so we're talking about all these awesome things that you're doing. Let's take it back. Other than forgetting to turn your store on, what's like a hiccup along the road? A mistake or something similar that you remember that, looking back on it, you want to like help our listeners not make.
Oof! Wow. Oh God! I mean, I'm still making mistakes all day, so I can just look like right out, out there. I mean, I'd say like this is more of a big picture thing than an individual mistake, but it's like depending on where you're at in the journey of entrepreneurship, e-commerce, doing your own thing, be it creative or whatever, be ready to dive all in and make sacrifices. You're making a mistake if you expect to just start something and then get rich and then just like hang out on a beach all day, because like this road is like not easy. And it's definitely not for everyone. And it's definitely a mistake if you think that it, is going to just be all like roses and like paved golden roads of happiness. Because it's like there's sacrifices, there's definitely hardship, there's definitely like, it's a sacrifice. You really got to be all in to build something great. And I mean, some people will stumble into something amazing without those hardships, but the chances of that, from my experience, are few and far between. But I mean, at the same time, the rewards are extremely worth it. And, if you're actually passionate about it and actually love what you're doing, right? Like, all of those problems will be worth it in the end, but just don't dive in thinking it's going to be great from the beginning, because you got to make sacrifice. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the hours. If you're doing it just for the money, if you're doing it just because you think it'll be like create the lifestyle you want immediately, then you're definitely not doing it for the right reasons. So that's more so coming from, the countless 80-hour weeks I put in these last 6 years, and the late nights in this chair right here, staying up late by myself, trying to like keep this thing afloat, trying to stay in motion. It's not an easy road, but if you do it because you love it and you're motivated to create something that's like bigger than you, then go for it.
You know what? I think that is the best sign off we've ever had on this podcast, man. So thank you so much for being on, sharing the story, and just that last little snippet there. Like that's, you'll have to wait to the end, unfortunately, but
that's the thing, right? You gotta exit through the gift shop.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, heck yeah. Happy to be here. Appreciate the opportunity.
We can't thank our guests enough for coming on the show and sharing the truth. Links and more will be available in the show notes. If you found any actionable advice in this podcast that you'd like to apply to your business, please reach out at electriceye.io/connect.
Please make sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice.